All right, so let's jump into this deep dive into The Shadow of the Wind, huh? It's a pretty dense book. There's a lot going on.
It really is.
So, I mean, right off the bat, there's this image that always kind of stuck with me. We're in, Barcelona, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're with this this young kid, Daniel, and his father, and it's like super early in the morning, barely any light.
Right.
And they're walking through this like really hazy part of town, the Revel district.
Yeah.
And they come to this this huge blackened wooden door.
Oh, yeah.
This imposing door. And it's the entrance to like this dilapidated building, what almost feels like the ruins of a palace.
Mm.
And Zafón, he really sets the stage, right? Like he describes it as this carcass of a palace, a space filled with blue haze.
I think that's what grabs you right away,
Yeah.
that sense of mystery, but
Right.
also like potential, right? Like there's something hidden there.
Right.
And I feel like it kind of mirrors the nature of the stories that Daniel is about to unearth. Like these powerful secrets from the past,
Yeah, and it's that whole concept of the book says, the first book that finds its way into his heart.
Right.
And it's like, I think every reader can kind of relate to that.
Totally.
That book that just stays with you.
Absolutely.
And for Daniel, in this story, it's The Shadow of the Wind.
Hmm.
And he finds it, as you said, in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books.
Oh, yeah.
And he reads it in one sitting until dawn.
Wow.
Totally captivated. And it's interesting, right? Because it really emphasizes how these first books, these enchanted pages,
Right.
actually, as Zafón puts it, sculpt a palace in our memory.
Hmm. Oh,
Like the
fair.
story itself becomes this kind of foundation in our internal world.
It's true. Think about the first books you read as a kid.
Yeah.
They really shape how you see the world, right? Like they give you characters to identify with. They give you, narratives, like frameworks for understanding things.
Yeah, exactly. Like those early encounters with literature, they really do become these almost like these building blocks for how we see things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this deep dive, it's not just going to be like rehashing the plot.
Right.
We want to use these opening parts of the book to really like immerse ourselves in the world of the story, right? Like the feeling of post-war Barcelona.
Yeah, the atmosphere.
Exactly.
So vivid, yeah.
And trace those early threads that connect the characters because it's complex.
Oh, it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately try to understand like what's the deeper significance
Mm-hmm.
of Daniel finding this book.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this encounter so crucial?
Right. Right.
So we're going to be talking about the cemetery itself, the author, Julian Carax.
Oh, he's a fascinating character.
He is
Yeah,
so
pretty cool.
enigmatic, and Barcelona itself, like the city as a character almost.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so our mission, if you will,
Okay.
is to really illuminate why this first encounter with the Shadow of the Wind is so, so important for Daniel, and to kind of uncover those underlying currents, those themes and ideas that flow out from these early experiences.
It really makes you think, what was that book for you? The one that just like completely grabbed you.
Yeah, that's a great question for all our listeners out there.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into this idea of the allure of the forgotten.
Okay.
Right. So the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, it's presented almost like this mythical place,
Yeah.
like this sanctuary or repository for these lost literary treasures.
Almost sacred, right?
Yeah,
Like a hidden library.
exactly.
Full of secrets.
And when Daniel finds the Shadow of the Wind, his reaction is so immediate, right? Like he's just completely drawn to
It
it.
devours it.
He reads it straight through until gone.
Wow.
And his first instinct is to share it, right?
Yeah.
To tell his friend Tomás Aguilar about this amazing discovery.
That's interesting, right? Like that contrast between the hidden nature of the cemetery
Right.
and then like his youthful impulse to immediately share it.
Yeah.
It shows how powerful that experience of finding a book that just like really resonates with you can be.
Right.
And Tomás, he's presented as this very inventive character.
Yeah.
Very hands-on, building things.
Right.
And then Daniel is drawn to this world of stories and imagination.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Like that urge to share when we find a book we love.
I think it's that feeling of like wanting someone else to experience that same wonder,
Yeah.
Like you've discovered something precious and you can't wait to show someone.
Right. Exactly. Like you found a secret treasure.
Right.
And there's also this this mention of Els Quatreguets,
Oh, yeah.
this cafe where Barcelo and other bibliophiles gather.
Right, to discuss literature,
Yeah.
to argue about books.
Exactly. And for those listening, Els Quatreguets, it wasn't just any cafe. It was like the place.
Yeah.
Like back in the day for artists and intellectuals, the modernist movement.
Right.
So it really shows like this rich cultural backdrop to Daniel's experience. It's not just finding a book. It's like entering a whole world
Exactly, yeah.
that values these forgotten works.
And it shows that, even works that might be overlooked by, like, the mainstream, the critics,
Right.
they can still have this huge impact, and
Yeah.
spark passionate discussion among those who discover them.
Exactly. And, soon after finding the book, Daniel has this first encounter with Barcelona.
Right, the bookseller.
Yeah, the Ateneo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because Barcelo, he makes Daniel promise
Right.
to remember the book, to care for
To
it.
keep it safe,
Yeah.
almost like a sacred object.
And the description of the Ateneo is so vivid, like that tropical atmosphere from the whirring fan,
Right,
and
yeah.
those sleepy readers melting like ice cubes.
It's so evocative.
It is.
Yeah.
And I also love the description of Barcelo's foppish attire.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so specific.
It almost creates this, like, dreamlike quality to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like he's stepping into a different reality just by getting the book.
Exactly.
And then there's Clara, Barcelo's niece.
Hmm.
And she's blind, and Daniel's just like immediately struck by her sad eyes.
Yeah.
And she's also surprisingly like an expert on Julian Carax.
Mm.
Turns out she had encountered his work in Provence during their wartime exile, actually.
Right, because her father was connected to the Catalan president's cabinet.
Yeah.
And then they had to flee during the war.
Right, and it kind of emphasizes, how far-reaching the impact of the war was.
Absolutely.
Right, like how it touched even these seemingly personal stories.
Yeah, the Spanish Civil War was brutal.
Yeah.
It really tore the country apart.
And I think it's interesting, Clara's blindness, right?
Mm.
Because she experiences Carax's work purely through language.
Yeah, maybe even more intensely because, her other senses might be heightened.
Right, exactly. So then we get this glimpse into the novel's initial reception.
Okay.
Through Monsieur Roquefort,
Right.
who was drawn to The Shadow of the Wind despite its pompous, moldy blurb.
Right, because of those darker elements.
Yeah, the sinister parts and that
Yeah.
saucy melodrama.
Yeah, he loved that stuff.
But the actual reviews for the book were pretty harsh.
Yeah, very dismissive.
They basically told Carax to stick to playing the piano, which I always thought was funny because
Right,
he was this talented pianist, but writing was his true passion.
It just shows you how unpredictable, the reception of a book can be.
Absolutely.
Like, something that eventually captivates so many readers can just be, like, totally ignored.
Yeah, or even ridiculed.
And Monsieur Roquefort, he was this self-proclaimed champion of lost causes.
Yes, he was.
And he actually bought up all the unsold copies of the book.
He did, which is really crucial, right? Because otherwise it would have been lost.
Totally, yeah.
What do you think motivates someone like that to champion something that everyone else is ignoring?
I think it's maybe a belief in their own taste, like they see something special that others don't. Or maybe it's just the satisfaction of going against the grain, of rescuing something from oblivion.
Right, like they see the value in something that everyone else has dismissed.
Exactly, yeah.
And moving beyond the book itself, we start to see how the past is very much present in Daniel's own life.
Right.
His father, who's deceased, his presence is still very much felt in the bookshop.
Yeah.
And Daniel's mother, she's determined to uncover the truth about his death, which happened at Montjuic Castle.
Right.
And we learn the name of his father's killer, Javier Fimero, who was linked to the FAI.
Yeah, for those listening, the FAI was an anarchist organization during the Civil War.
Right.
So it really, it kind of brings in that political element,
Yeah, and it contrasts with Daniel's world, right?
Yeah.
Which is very much centered on books and stories.
Yeah, that juxtaposition is really interesting. Like, you have this innocent world of literature, and then this very real and brutal backdrop of war.
Exactly, and there's this really poignant moment where Daniel's father is talking about a Mont Blanc pen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's too expensive. They can't afford it.
Right.
But it becomes this like symbol of a future Daniel hopes for. And the father reflects on the war and the things that happen at Manchu Castle.
Yeah, he doesn't say explicitly what happened, but it's clear that there's some darkness there.
Right, and it kind of foreshadows those secrets that are connected to Carax's past as well.
Totally.
And then Daniel has this really unsettling encounter.
Okay.
Late at night, near the cathedral. There's this limping figure.
Yeah.
And his face is hidden in the shadows.
Creepy. And what's really striking is that Daniel recognizes the scene from The Shadow of the Wind.
Right. It's like the book is coming to life.
It really blurs those lines between fiction and reality, you know?
Yeah, and it's that moment where you start to realize that
Right.
the stories we read, they can have a much more powerful connection to our lives than we might realize.
It makes you think, are stories just reflections of reality, or can they actually shape it?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So as Daniel, continues to try and unravel this mystery surrounding Carax, he starts visiting Barcelo's apartment.
Oh, yeah, that amazing apartment in the Plaza Real.
Yes, and we're introduced to Bernarda, the maid.
Right, with that thick Caceres accent.
So theatrical.
Oh, she's a character.
She is.
And we learn about Clara's musical talent and Barcelo's weird rule about not letting her play Mompou.
Right, it's almost like a hint, right? Like there's some hidden reason.
Right, like some past association that we don't know about yet.
And Daniel's visits, they become more frequent, right? Like he's clearly drawn to their world.
Yeah, he's getting deeper into the mystery.
Right, and the dynamic between him, Clara, and Barcelo, it really starts to set the stage for the rest of the story.
It's like by trying to understand this forgotten author, Daniel is becoming part of his own mystery almost.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And we also see these kind of unexpected relationships developing. Like Bernarda, she really becomes this nurturing figure for Daniel. Cooking for him, mending his clothes, even giving him a religious medal.
Right, and it's so different from Daniel's own life, you know?
Right, his father's more modest circumstances.
Yeah, and it's almost like a found family for him, you know?
Yeah.
In this post-war society where like traditional family structures have been disrupted.
And there's this awkwardness, this tension between Daniel and Clara.
Right.
And Barcelo and Bernarda always seem to be like interjecting.
Yeah, or Clara's friends, that whole sisterly brigade.
Oh, yeah.
They always seem to get in the way.
It definitely hints at like unspoken feelings,
Yeah, there's definitely some romantic tension there.
But then things get a lot more serious.
Oh, yeah.
When this menacing figure approaches Daniel demanding the book.
Right, and offering him a ton of money for it.
Like 1,000 euros.
It really raises the stakes, you know?
Yeah.
It's no longer just about curiosity. It's like there's a real threat now.
And then there's that violent encounter with Adrian Neri.
Oh, yeah, Clara's music teacher.
Who's so protective of Clara.
It's another warning sign for Daniel, like he's getting into dangerous territory.
He is.
So, wanting answers, Daniel goes back to the Cemetery of Forgotten Books to see Isaac.
Yeah, and Isaac is like the keeper of the cemetery. And he's initially very gruff.
Oh, yeah. He's not very welcoming.
No, but eventually he cracks a smile.
Right, because he remembers Daniel's father.
Yeah, he respected him.
It shows how important those past connections are in this world.
They really are.
Yeah.
And Isaac, he's hesitant at first, but he eventually shares some info about Carax. He mentions Tony Cavastani, the publisher,
right,
and his daughter Nuria and their connection to Carax. And he even mentions that Nuria went to Paris and stayed in Carax's apartment.
Oh, wow.
It's starting to paint a picture of a more personal relationship, right?
Yeah, definitely more than just author and publisher.
Right.
But, Isaac doesn't exactly have the best things to say about Carax.
Oh, yeah, he calls him a scoundrel.
He does.
And he compares Daniel's understanding of women to his own lack of baking skills, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, Isaac, yeah, he's got a way with words.
He does.
But it shows how, opinions of the past can be so subjective, right? And often contradictory.
And Isaac confirms that the books Nuria took from the warehouse are still in the cemetery.
Right, and that Nuria still cares about Carax.
She does, and she wants to go back for the books someday,
Yeah.
to return them to him.
But she hasn't heard from him in months.
No, and Isaac, he doesn't even seem sure about Nuria's true feelings.
Right.
It's really a mixed bag of information, you know.
It is.
And at the end of their conversation, Isaac asks Daniel to keep everything a secret,
Hmm.
which, you know, just adds to that sense of danger.
Yeah, like the truth about Carax is something people want to keep hidden,
Right.
and that Daniel might be in danger for looking for it.
And then Daniel, he's in the cemetery surrounded by all these forgotten books,
Yeah.
and he's overcome with this sense of sadness,
Hmm.
like the sheer volume of lost stories.
It's like there's so much knowledge there just waiting to be rediscovered.
Right. And you know, life goes on, and eventually Daniel's focus kind of shifts
Okay.
away from the mystery, at least for a little while,
Right.
because things at the bookshop get busy.
Yeah, reality sets in.
And then we meet Fermin.
Oh yeah, Fermin Romero de Torres. He arrives at the bookshop looking a bit rough.
He does. Very disheveled.
But he and Daniel's father hit it off immediately.
They do. And it's interesting, right? Like their friendship,
Hmm.
because Fermin is this larger than life character
Oh yeah, so dramatic.
with this intriguing past filled with international intrigue, supposedly.
He brings this whole new energy to the story.
He does.
And you can tell, like, he and Daniel's father, they understand each other, you know?
Right. Like they've both seen some things.
Yeah, they both got some baggage.
And Fermin, he accepts the Semper family's offer of food, shelter, and work.
Hmm.
And it's really a turning point, right? He becomes part of their lives.
Yeah, he's part of the family now.
And Fermin's first purchase is a very glamorous hat.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
I
Fermin,
don't have a good hat.
and then we get this brief glimpse into his past at Donna Encarna's boarding house.
Right, where we hear him screaming.
Yeah, it's kind of a reminder, right?
Mm-hmm.
That underneath that humor and theatricality,
Yeah.
there's some real pain.
And when Daniel and his father visit Fermin in his tiny room, it's really sad, you know?
It is. It shows how vulnerable he is.
Yeah.
And then Daniel has this really disturbing experience at the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
He sees that faceless man again.
Right, the one from before.
Yeah, and he feels this breath of air that smells like burnt paper.
That's creepy.
It's like that connection to the book and that figure.
Right.
And Fermin is like totally oblivious.
Yeah, he's just being his usual cheerful self.
Offering Daniel a lemon sugus.
Right.
It really shows how alone Daniel is starting to feel in all this.
Yeah, like he's carrying this burden.
And then, in a surprising turn of events, Daniel apologizes to Tomas for picking on his sister, B.
Oh, wow.
And he sees Thomas as this shy, kind of isolated figure.
Right.
And then Thomas invites Daniel to be his friend.
That's nice.
It's kind of unexpected. But it shows how friendships can form in the most unlikely places.
It does.
And then we really meet B.
B. Aguilar.
Yeah, Thomas's sister.
She's quite a character, right?
She is so complex.
Yeah.
She goes to this strict Catholic school, but then she's also into like anise liqueur and silk stockings.
Right, and mimicking those Hollywood actresses.
And Daniel really dislikes her, and she seems to feel the same way about him.
It's a recipe for either conflict
Right.
or, you know, maybe a change of heart down the line.
And then Fermin chimes in with his opinions on military service.
Oh, yeah, Fermin always has something to say about everything.
He does, and he describes his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Which are, you know, typically cynical, but also kind of funny.
They are.
And then Bernarda returns,
Yes, she does.
and she greets Daniel with such affection.
She does, and Daniel decides not to ask her about Clara,
Hmm.
which I thought was interesting, like a sign of maturity, maybe.
Right, or maybe he's just trying to respect her privacy.
Or maybe his feelings have shifted a little.
It's those little moments of restraint that reveal a lot about a character.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Daniel encourages Bernarda to go out with Fermin. He even suggests Els Quatre Gats.
Ah, that's sweet.
And he gives Fermin some money, and Fermin's so nervous.
Oh, Fermin, he's got a soft spot.
But then back at the bookshop, there's this other unsettling incident
Okay.
with books falling off the shelves and this weird stifled laugh.
It's like that sense of danger is never really gone.
No, it's always lurking.
And then they find that burned photograph.
Yes, the young couple in front of the hat shop.
Right.
It's clearly from the past, and there's so much mystery surrounding it.
It's like another piece of the puzzle that we don't know how to fit in yet.
Right, and it really emphasizes, you know, how the past is always present
Yeah.
in this story.
And then Fermin goes on one of his rants about Professor Javier Velasquez.
Oh yeah, he calls him a corrupt pedant.
He does, and a fascist buttock polisher.
And then Daniel runs into Beatrice Aguilar, Bia's sister, at the university.
Oh, wow. What are the chances?
And she really gives him a piece of her mind.
She does.
It's like everyone in Barcelona has a history with each other.
It's true. It's a small world.
And then Bia, she confronts Daniel about a comment he made about her being stuck up and vain.
Oh, yeah.
And she demands an apology.
She's not afraid to speak her mind.
She's not.
And then she reveals that she's studying literature at the university.
Right, against her father's wishes.
And she even admits to feeling lonely sometimes.
She does.
Which is, not what you'd expect from her.
Right.
And then, in a surprising turn, she offers Daniel her friendship.
Yeah, it's a big moment.
It is.
And she challenges him to prove her wrong about Barcelona.
She wants him to see the good in the city.
So, continuing his investigation, Daniel goes to an old hat shop on Calle Pateria,
Okay.
looking for information about Julian Carax.
Right.
And he talks to the caretaker there,
Hmm.
who remembers Senor Fortuny and his son, Julian.
Okay.
She describes Julian as being sweet, strange, and given to daydreaming.
Starting to build a picture of him,
Right, and she thinks he died in 1919, but Daniel tells her he lived until at least 1935.
Right, because of the letter.
Yeah.
The letter they found.
And then she tells this really vivid story about Julian's marriage to a French woman.
Oh, yeah. Troubled marriage.
Very troubled.
Lots of fights. The police even got involved.
And the French woman was very secretive about Julian's real father.
There's always another secret.
There is.
And then they go upstairs to the apartment above the hat shop.
They do, and it's covered in dust and ashes.
Right, like it's been abandoned for years.
And they find an unmade bed, some personal items, and this locked room that seems to have belonged to a child.
That's interesting.
And then the caretaker, she remembers Fortuny putting an envelope in a cabinet.
And they find it.
They do.
That's in it.
A letter from Ricardo Aldaya to Julian Carax, dated 1919.
Wow, so Fortuny lied about when Julian died?
Yeah.
And there's definitely a connection to the Aldaya family.
So Daniel goes to the newspaper archives to try and find Aldaya's address.
Okay.
And he talks to Senor Sanchez, who's this really unpleasant character.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
He makes all these awful comments about women.
And he only agrees to help Daniel after he gets bribed.
He does, but he also shares a memory about Fortuny's reaction to his wife leaving him, suggesting he encouraged Fortuny to basically go whoring.
It's not a very flattering portrait of Fortuny.
It's not. And then Fermin, he immediately sees through B.
Oh, yeah. He says she's passionate.
He does. And that she wouldn't make a very good, obedient little wife.
Which is, classic Fermin.
And Daniel tries to change the subject to Bernarda.
Maybe he's starting to see her in a different light.
But then they get a visit from Inspector Fumero.
Oh, no, that's not good.
And he accuses Daniel of associating with queers and thieves.
He specifically mentions Fermin even using aliases.
Yeah, and he threatens Daniel, tells him to choose a side.
It's getting really dangerous now.
It is, and Daniel, he tries to help Fermin by going to Don Federico, the watchmaker,
right,
to pawn his father's watch.
Hmm.
But Don Federico, he's so kind, he refuses to take it.
He does.
And he gives Daniel an alarm clock instead.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And then Daniel goes on this solitary journey.
Okay.
He takes a tram to Tibidabo.
Right.
And walks back down, passing the Aldaya mansion.
It's like he's drawn to it.
And he thinks about Penelope and the feelings Julian might have had for her.
It's like he's trying to understand their story,
Yeah, and maybe escape from his own problems for a little while.
Right.
But then back in the city, there's this commotion.